The Early English Monarchy, narrated by Charles Alexander Campbell Reimer. Following Viking raids and settlement in the 9th century, the Anglo-Saxon kingdom of Wessex emerged as the dominant English kingdom. Alfred the Great secured Wessex, achieved dominance over western Mercia, and assumed the title King of the English. His grandson Aethelstan was the first king to rule over a unitary kingdom, roughly corresponding to the present borders of England, though its constituent parts retained strong regional identities. The 11th century saw England become more stable, despite a number of wars with the Danes, which resulted in a Danish monarchy for one generation. William, Duke of Normandy's conquest of England in 1066 was crucial in terms of both political and social change. The new monarchy continued the centralization of power begun in the Anglo-Saxon period, while the feudal system continued to develop. William I was succeeded by his two sons, William II and then Henry I. Henry made a controversial decision by naming his daughter Matilda, his only surviving child, as his heir. Following Henry's death in 1135, one of William I's grandsons, Stephen, laid claim to the throne and took power with the support of most of the barons. Matilda challenged his reign. As a result, England descended into a period of disorder known as the Anarchy. Stephen maintained a precarious hold on the power, but agreed to a compromise under which Matilda's son Henry would succeed him. Henry accordingly became the first monarch of the Angevin or Plantagenet dynasty as Henry II in 1154. The reigns of most of the Angevin monarchs were marred by civil strife and conflict between the monarch and the nobility. Henry II faced rebellions from his own sons, the future monarchs Richard I and John. Nevertheless, Henry managed to expand his kingdom. Upon Henry's death, his son Richard succeeded to the throne. He was absent from England for most of his reign, as he left to fight in the Third Crusade. He was killed besieging a castle, and John succeeded him. John's reign was marked by conflict with the barons, particularly over the limits of royal power. In 1215, the barons coerced the king into issuing the Magna Carta to guarantee the rights and liberties of the nobility. Soon afterwards, further disagreements plunged England into a civil war known as the First Barons' War. The war came to an abrupt end after John died in 1216, leaving the crown to his 9-year-old son, Henry III. Later in Henry's reign, Simon de Montfort led the barons in another rebellion, beginning the Second Barons' War. The war ended in a clear royalist victory and in the death of many rebels, but not before the king had agreed to summon a parliament in 1265. The next monarch, Edward I, was far more successful in maintaining royal power and was responsible for the conquest of Wales. He attempted to establish English domination of Scotland. However, gains in Scotland were reversed during the reign of his successor, Edward II, who had also faced conflict with the nobility. Edward II was, in 1311, forced to relinquish many of his powers to a committee of baronial ordainers. However, military victories helped him regain control in 1322. Nevertheless, in 1327, Edward was deposed and then murdered by his wife Isabella. His 14-year-old son became Edward III. Edward III claimed the French crown, setting off the 100 Years' War between England and France. Join us again next time as we descend into the madness of the later English monarchy, the 100 Years' War, and the War of the Roses, culminating into the reign of the Tudor kings.